folks, welcome back to another aves video tutorial. This time around I'm going to be showing some things that you can do with this material here, which is called epoxy clay. It's another product by Aves that's a two-part epoxy, and the main difference between this and Fix-It Sculpt is that it has a shorter curing time. It's about 2 to 3 hours. So the advantage to having a shorter curing time obviously would be if you need to work on something faster and you want it to set up quicker so that you can work on it. So about 2 to 3 hours, and I just gotta say I am really enjoying working with this stuff. And I kind of like the shorter cure time, and I also like the fact that it sticks very well to the plastics that I work with on my figures. So right now what I'm doing is I'm using the epoxy clay to make this character here, which is a character I came up with called Mr. Munch. And basically he is going to be a large, he's a Human Oddities figure, and he's going to be, basically his head is just going to be one big mouth, which is why I call him Mr. Munch. And I am working on these figures here for actually an art show. So I'm trying to get these done quickly, and that's why I've chosen the epoxy clay for this. So right now you can see I've done a little bit of sculpting on Mr. Munch here. I've kind of made the basic shape of his head, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add another layer here for the lips, and I'm going to add some more to the back here and probably some down here to finish the seal over the head. I've just used an extra kind of cast head as a base to sculpt on top of. And this is already almost cured up now. I started it this morning, and that was about 2 hours now, and it's a little bit still soft and pliable, so I could still work with it a little bit, but it's mostly set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back after I've mixed some epoxy clay and show you what I'm going to do next. Alright, and I'm back, and I've got my epoxy clay parts A and B measured out here. It's important to know that when you're working with any of these two-part epoxy clays made by Aves, that you need to have equal parts of A and B. And this time the A and B are a little bit different. This is actually the part A, which is usually in the other clays it's the lighter color, but this time it's a darker color. And then this is part B, which is the lighter color. And so all you do to mix them is what I do is I just kind of squeeze them together, and then I start folding over like this, going around, folding over until it becomes basically one color. Sometimes it likes to stick to your fingers, and what I just do is I kind of keep a tool handy to scrape it off and then reincorporate it back in there. But all I'm doing is I'm just squeezing and folding, squeezing and folding. That's the best way that I've found to mix it. Not really any other way to mix this stuff up. And so I'm going to check it every once in a while and see if the color is right. Let me put this over here. See if I can get a better light. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Alright, and I think I'm getting pretty close here. So that's, here's another figure that I actually, I'm working on too with this stuff, so I can probably work on, and this is the Eyeball Kid, and this is actually the second one that I've done. This is a finished one that's been painted, and that's all done with the epoxy clay. So this one here, I've got to add a few more detail, and I sculpted this one the other night. I've got to add the eyelids and things to it. But I'm going to focus on Mr. Munch here. Alright, let me get this stuff finished, getting this stuff mixed, and I'll be right back. Alright, got my epoxy clay all mixed up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break off a piece and kind of roll it into a snake here to make the lips the start of the lips, and I want them to be kind of big, so I'm not gonna make my snake very thin. And then I'm gonna taper the ends a little bit just by rolling them in my fingertips. And then all I'm gonna do there is just stick it on. It's gonna look like a mustache at first, which is kind of funny. But once I start to get it on there and shape it, it should look more lip-like. And like I said before, what I really like about this epoxy clay, and I find myself using it more lately than the Fix-It Sculpt, is because it likes to stick really good, especially to itself, which Fix-It Sculpt does also. But on the plastics, sometimes I have a little bit of trouble getting it to stick, and sometimes I even have to take a dab of super glue to get started. But this stuff, it's really sticky, and it really likes to bond. I had a little trouble down here getting this small piece here to stick earlier this morning, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that it was just a tinier piece. The bigger stuff likes to stick really well, and that's true with the Fix-It Sculpt also. So now I've got my upper lip on, and I am going to add the bottom lip here, but I don't want to add it yet because I don't want to mess up what I'm, if I'm sculpting on one side, I'm going to press with my fingers not knowing it on another. So I want to get that sculpted. I'll just take my finger and press down for the little middle part there. Let me smooth it out with my knife. One of the best sculpting tools, and probably the primary tool that I use in sculpting, is just an old dull X-Acto knife. I have a sharp one for cutting, and then I have this one here that's kind of just dulled out for sculpting with, and it's just really great for pretty much anything. You can use the handle to make little shapes like that. This stuff sticks so good it even wants to stick to my X-Acto blade, the handle, which is kind of funny. Alright, and now I got a pretty good shape right there on that. So I'm going to get my epoxy clay, and I'm going to pull off another piece, set my extra to the side. The bottom lip is always going to be bigger and thicker, so I've got a little bit more clay here, and I'm going to roll it out into snake form, or coil. You might think of it as a coil. Sometimes we say coil. And then make sure it's long enough. Looks like it is. So now I'm going to taper the ends. Going pretty well. Now I'm going to apply that. Alright. Got a little bit extra there, a little bit too long, so I'm going to pull that extra off, stick it on my little stash there, and start to shape it and sculpt it. And pretty happy with how this is going so far. It's looking pretty darn good. It looks pretty weird. Alright, so that's pretty much it. I mean, not a whole lot of crazy sculpting going on here. I'm probably going to continue to work on this and just add the little creases that lips have. They have little creases in them, and since this isn't such a detailed figure in the sculpt, I don't have to do eyes or noses or anything. It's just kind of like a big mouth. It's kind of an exaggerated thing. Please forgive my students playing, or my kids playing video games in the background. I don't have to worry about having more time that I would get from Fix-It Sculpt. The longer curing time, the 4-hour cure time. Since this is sort of a simpler sculpt, I can have less time to work on it, and that's pretty much going to do it. So there is the magnificent Mr. Munch head sculpt using epoxy clay. definitely go and, you know, if you watch this tutorial and you're interested in it, go to avesstudio.com and check them out and get you some epoxy clay. It's really awesome for sculpting bizarre action figure head sculpts. That's going to do it for this video. So from Lucas Clones, see you guys again. Bye-bye.